My daughter-in-law stood in that marble office, voice shaking but proud, reading her public apology to me, the mother she'd once tried to erase. I didn't gloat. I simply watched the truth return home. Every word she spoke rebuilt what greed had broken. And trust me, this story's just beginning. The air in that conference room could have frozen a prayer. Cold AC hummed above the walnut table, and the lemon polish hit my nose sharp as vinegar. Dr. Lisette Morgan's legal pads sat in neat stacks, glasses of water sweating circles on her coasters. Seraphine adjusted her phone, camera tilted just enough to catch me in its frame. "We'll post right after," she whispered to Declan, who grinned like the devil on lunch break. "Ain't my first rodeo," I told Lisette when she offered coffee. My voice was calm, the kind that comes from too many funerals and not enough apologies. The receptionist poked her head in, murmuring, "Family reading. That word family always sounds like glue until you realize it's dried." Lisette opened a brown envelope marked Token Bequest and set it right in front of me. Small thing. But I could feel its weight, like a dare. Inside, a single silver coin waited, just enough insult to be legal. My hands stayed folded, my ring warm against my skin. Old women keep receipts. Baby in our bones. Seraphine chose the center seat, Declan beside her, elbows wide like they own the air. I picked the chair near the door. If trouble walked in, I'd have the first exit. The spare chair against the wall told me everything. There was no room for me at their new table. "Let's stick to the agenda," Declan said, already pretending to be in charge. I met his gaze. "Do me a favor. Let the paper do the talking." Lisette cleared her throat, reading clause by clause. As to personal effects, household contents, and discretionary funds. The words rolled smooth until she reached the dagger. To Evelyn Mae Corven, $1. The silence after that felt long enough to age me another year. A tiny coin slid across the table in a craft envelope. Seraphine smiled, a tight, smug twist of her lip. "It's symbolic. Mother, you had your season." "Well," I said, keeping my tone light, "seasons teach harvests." "Bless your heart," she added, sugar coating the cruelty. Declan leaned back, cufflinks gleaming. "Standard practice for clarity," he said, like he'd rehearsed it. I saw his fingers fidget, money already spent in his head. The air vent's hum grew louder, and the polish smell turned bitter. I tapped my wedding ring once against the table. That sound steadied me, a rhythm Harlan used to make when bills got ugly. Seraphine's phone camera blinked again, reflection flashing on her sunglasses. She said, "My followers love closure." Her thumb hovered over a Reels draft titled Legacy One. Yes, she's fixing to broadcast our business, I thought. Slow and quiet. I asked evenly, "Is that recording?" "Public figure, mother, transparency," she chirped. Declan muttered, "Fair use." I took a sip of water, eyes still on Lisette. If they wanted a scene, they wouldn't get one. I let their camera catch calm instead of chaos. Under the table, I rubbed the copper edge of my church coin. Harlan's voice echoed in my head. Steady hands win ugly fights. Lisette looked between us, voice neutral but eyes knowing. "Do you acknowledge the terms, Mrs. Corven?" "I hear every word," I said, "but hearing ain't agreeing." Seraphine flipped her hair. "We'll handle the house, too." I wrote one note on my pad. House, Galveston, separate. "Child," I murmured, "don't spend money twice." My tone soft but heavy as oak. The lawyer's eyes flickered to another binder beneath the table. "We'll proceed, and then address a supplemental matter." Seraphine's smirk faltered. Declan stiffened. I sat still, the coin warm in my palm, my mind already drafting counterweight. If they drew blood, I'd draw paper. And then the lawyer turned one page and said, however. Dr. Lizette Morgan said, steady as a metronome. There is a codicil executed in March of last year. Her eyes met mine, calm but watchful. I didn't blink, didn't celebrate. You don't smile in a courtroom you didn't build, Seraphine snapped before she thought. Objection, Declan muttered. We'll review authenticity. His voice had the wobble of a man who just realized the floor might not hold. I kept the $1 envelope untouched beside my pad. My hands rested still, old hands, but disciplined. Beneath the table, a second binder peeked out from Lisette's chair leg. Its label read, Supplemental Exhibits. Paper remembers what people forget, I murmured. Lisette gave a tiny nod, already marking the schedule. We'll reconvene in 48 hours. Declan tried for control. We'll need the chain of custody. It's documented, Lisette answered. I spoke once, softly. I'm not here to fuss. I'm here to finish. Then I asked for copies to be sent to my email and to Odette Walsh for record keeping. My pen lay straight on the page margin, perfectly aligned. Small things make a woman feel powerful. Seraphine's screen dimmed. Her smile broke. The room cooled as silence took its seat. I left without argument. I don't do hallway theater for cameras. The next morning, I flew home to Texas. I packed light, carry on, blood pressure pills, and my church coin in my pocket. Yes, ma'am, I know the drill. I told TSA, sliding off shoes like a woman who's done this too many times. On the plane, I sipped ginger ale, ice clinking, reading Lisette's email confirming Saturday's codicil review. I forwarded it to Jonas Corven, my nephew, with one subject line, do not edit, save exact. Outside my window, clouds folded like quilts. I thought about Seraphine's smirk and Declan's cufflinks. My husband used to say, never argue with people who buy cameras. They're selling a show. I texted Marjorie, I'm stopping by the cemetery. Bring prayers, not flowers. That night in Austin, I rented the smallest sedan they had. Don't need pretty, I told the clerk. Need reliable. Next morning, I carried a slice of pecan pie wrapped in wax paper to Harlan's grave. The grass was thin, the sky the color of tin. You taught me steady hands, baby, I whispered. I cleaned the marker with a damp cloth until it caught light again. I placed my church coin on the stone. Wind turned it once. It landed face up. In God we trust. Lord, I breathed, give me patience without making me practice it. I took the $1 envelope from my coat. It stayed sealed. I set it beside the coin, then stepped back. No grandstanding, no tussle. We'll do this the grown folk way. My phone buzzed. Lisette. Chain of custody attached. Relief moved through me like warm tea. I snapped one photo. Stone, coin, envelope, no faces. Metadata preserved. Photos are receipts if you take them right, I said out loud. Before leaving, I pocketed the coin and let the envelope stay. Pride can blow away just like paper. When I walked into Lisette's office 2 days later, the air conditioner was colder than memory. Odette sat near the corner with a locked pouch. Declan's eyes were restless. Seraphine had no nail polish this time, just nerves. Lisette pressed record. Codicil executed March 14, 2023, she announced. Witnessed, notarized, and stored in counsel's fire safe. Is there a video log? I asked. There is. Confirmatory only. Lisette replied. Then read it, I said. Declan threw out statute numbers like confetti. Lisette countered with case law. Seraphine tried to sound confident, but her voice cracked. Let's not sugarcoat it, I said. Either it's valid or it ain't. Lisette explained the codicil clarified control and stewardship. I kept my eyes on the blue-back document as the copier hummed and the notary stamp clicked. Paper had rhythm, and rhythm meant order. Marjorie texted me a prayer emoji. I sent back a single period. Our quiet amen. Finally. Lisette inhaled, finger poised on the page. We will now read the codicil aloud. The room stilled. The AC hushed. Declan whispered, "Stall it if you can." Too late. The record was rolling. I placed my palm flat against the wood, feeling my ring cold and solid. "All right then," I said, steady. "Let's see what truth costs today." Lisette began. "And the codicil names Evelyn Mae Corven as controlling trustee of the Corven legacy assets." The silence after felt holy. After Lisette read the final line naming me trustee, the air thinned like someone had opened a door to judgment itself. Seraphine froze, eyes blank, lips pressed tight. Declan scribbled on his yellow pad, but the ink wouldn't save him. Lisette paused for her notes, calm as ever, and I requested certified copies with a digital hash. "Folks," I said, voice even, "the paper is the paper." She stamped and sealed everything while I gathered my calm like pearls in a jar. When Declan muttered, "Appeal," I answered, "You can appeal to the moon, sun, but the law lives down here." I didn't take their dollar envelope. I left it with Lisette for proper custody. I pocketed my copies and gave her one nod, the kind of nod that says we're not finished, just resting. Her eyes met mine. Professional, steady, a quiet alliance between two women who know patience is power. I turned my back on Seraphine's silence and walked out. Cameras flashed near the elevators. I held up my palm. No photos for my face today. In the corridor, she followed. "You stole my story," she hissed. I turned, calm. "This is your mother talking, not your audience." Her eyeliner trembled as she blinked. "Stop spending money twice in your head," I said. "No more filming me, no more posting family lies. You push dirt, I'll push paper." Declan stepped forward, but I raised a hand. No touching, no scene. "Speak to counsel." My heels clicked once on marble as I walked away first. The echo belonged to me. Back in my hotel room, the ocean wind outside the balcony reminded me of Galveston years ago. Harlan in the kitchen, storm shutters shaking, counting invoices by candlelight. "Evie," he said, sliding a blue-backed form toward me. "Steady hands win ugly fights." He taught me 3 habits that night. Date every note, file what you sign, and never argue what you can document. He touched my wrist, warm and sure. "If they forget your worth," he said, "make the law remember it." I'd asked him once, "And if it's family that forgets?" He chuckled. "Then paper becomes your peace." His words aged well. Now, on my laptop, I labeled folders: trust, codicil, custody, media, each one neat and ready. "Memories fade," I whispered, "but ink don't." That afternoon, I video called Jonas. His young face glowed blue from the screen. "Aunt Evie," he said, "something's off." He shared his screen. Timestamps, headers, strange IPs. "Draft sent 311 from a Los Angeles block. Not your husband's email, not his phrasing." The subject read, "Reallocation memo." Harlan's voice never used that kind of corporate poison. I muttered, "That dog won't hunt." Jonas grinned. "Mama, it never did." He exported every byte. Headers, hashes, timestamps. "This bundle's clean," he said. "You can prove forgery with this alone." I thanked him, then forwarded it all to Lisette. Subject: for the record. Possible forgery chain. I texted Marjorie a single period, "Our quiet keep praying steady." Then I sat back, let the anger roll through like weather, and whispered, "They picked the wrong old lady to forge around." By evening, I dictated a short letter to Lisette's paralegal. "Cease and desist on defamatory posts," I said. "Litigation hold on all Lang devices." My voice stayed polite, but my pulse kept rhythm like a drum. "I don't chase storms," I told her. "I board my windows." I called my bank next, requested a temporary freeze on discretionary withdrawals tied to trust accounts. No yelling, no panic, just steps, measured and clean. Later, I texted Seraphine, "No more posts. Speak to counsel." I swallowed my evening pills, checked my pressure, then walked the hotel corridor, slow, steady. Sometimes the only sermon you need is your own footsteps. The phone buzzed as I returned to my room. A notification glowed. Media advisory, 10 a.m. tomorrow. Beverly Hills. Setting the record straight. Hosted by Declan Lang and Seraphine Corven Lang. "Well," I whispered. "There it is." I forwarded it to Lisette. "We'll answer with paper, not microphones." Her reply came in seconds. "Already drafting." I turned off the lamp, slid the folder under my pillow, and smiled. "If they want a show at 10, I said to the dark, "I'll bring the record at 9. At 9 sharp. I stepped into Lone River Federal Bank. The marble floor caught a soft shine, and Camden Price, steady young man in a gray suit, guided me to a private desk. I carried stamped copies, every page marked with its own seal. "We're not shutting doors, son," I told him, voice low. "We're just locking windows while the storm passes." He smiled the way people do when they meet calm authority. I presented my trustee credentials, photo ID, signature, and the codicil reference number. Camden verified each line, reading back the clauses that gave me control. We placed alerts across the Corven accounts. Any withdrawal would call compliance and Dr. Lisette Morgan directly. I signed each notification with care, ink steady. "Paper before panic," I murmured. Receipts printed, scanned, logged. The sound of the copier was my music. By 9:45, Lisette joined on speaker. Her tone was clipped, but clear. "Litigation holds confirmed for both devices," she said. "I authorized the cease and desist letters for their defamatory posts. Process servers moved faster than gossip." "Don't wrestle with pigs," I told Camden. "Just mail the sheriff." He grinned, typing. Jonas's forensic bundle was time-stamped into the court record. Hash IDs read aloud. I leaned back, shoulders square. "All right then," I said. "Let them talk at 10. We'll stand tall at 2. At 10, the show began without me. Declan stood behind a hotel podium marked Legacy Clarified on Seraphine, pearls too bright for daylight, looked straight into a row of cameras. I watched on mute from my hotel room. They called my inheritance symbolic. My role, sentimental. I texted Lisette 2 words, time code. Her reply came fast, clip saved. Context pending court. I smiled at my reflection in the screen. "If folks sell a show," I said to the empty room, "don't buy a ticket." I turned the live stream off, pressed my court outfit. Simple and dark, flat shoes, nothing shiny. Steady hands win ugly fights. Harlan had said it first, and he was right. By 2, the Dallas courthouse stood under a clear sky. Judge Raymond Holt took the bench, no nonsense in his voice. "We're here on Corven Legacy versus Lang." Lisette rose, confident. Declan followed, too loud. Holt asked for appearances, then the chain of custody for the codicil. Lisette recited it, dates, witnesses, notarized video confirmation. Declan argued style inconsistencies. Holt cut him short. "Counsel evidence, not adjectives." The room cooled. I kept my eyes on the blue-backed document. my church coin pressing into my palm. Lisette laid out the exhibits, codicil, affidavits, digital logs, Jonas's forensic trail. Holt reviewed each page and nodded. "Admitted," he said. Silence spread like tidewater. Then Lisette read aloud. "This codicil names Evelyn Mae Corven as controlling trustee of the Corven legacy assets." Gasps followed, soft but sharp. Seraphine froze mid-blink. Declan's pen stopped moving. Clause by clause, Lisette's voice built a wall of truth. Misrepresentation triggers removal. Stewardship ensures accountability. Charity provisions irrevocable. Holt turned to Declan. "Substantive objection?" Declan stammered. "Procedural," Holt interrupted. "Overruled on the merits, not theater." Inside my chest, peace replaced anger. Paper remembers, I thought. Lisette added Jonas's email headers proving tampering attempts. Holt leaned forward. "Preserve all devices," he ordered. "Spoliation will be treated as contempt." The final gavel hit felt like thunder finding its home. Trustee control passes to Evelyn Mae Corven per codicil terms, Holt said. Just like that, the weight in the room changed sides. Reporters stirred outside, microphones waiting for blood. Lisette leaned close. "Statement?" she asked. I stood, hands steady. "One sentence," I said, facing the cameras. I spoke slow and clear. "I won't fight my child in public. The record will stand." The murmurs rippled, respectful and quiet. Then, from the gallery, Seraphine's voice cracked through the hush. "You stole my life!" she shouted. I turned toward her, breath even, eyes firm. "No," I said, soft enough to cut clean. "I'm giving it back to the truth." Morning light slid through my Austin blinds like thin gold threads. I watered the peace lilies, humming low. The house still is church before prayer. Peace, I've learned, ain't silence. It's planning. My coffee steamed beside a stack of printouts. Lisette's filing sat on top, every timestamp confirmed, every clause airtight. Jonas had texted earlier. Traffic spike on Lang Stream. Bots, not viewers. I chuckled, tapping back. Even lies need electricity. Pull the plug, baby. Minutes later, Lisette replied with her usual efficiency. FTC alert filed. Fraudulent engagement logged. I whispered to no one. Trustees don't argue online. They document offline. By mid-morning, the trap we built began to hum. Declan tried a wire transfer to the Caymans, hiding behind a fake charity alias. Camden called me direct. "Ms. Corven," he said, voice half shocked, half impressed. "They tripped the fraud rule you set." I smiled into the receiver. Bless their ambition. Lisette filed for contempt within the hour. Judge Holt signed a temporary freeze order. Their accounts locked tighter than Sunday offerings. My grandma's saying rose up in my chest, "If you can't build fences, you learn to set traps." I opened my laptop and authorized a full forensic audit. Quiet, clinical, precise, Artin Seraphine across the coast received her notification mid-lunch live stream. The chat blew up. I saw her composure melt one pixel at a time. Jonas archived every frame, every timestamp. Watching justice unfold without raising my voice felt better than victory. It felt earned. By afternoon, karma grew wings. A blogger leaked Declan's failed transfer, citing sources near the trustee. The press pounced, scenting scandal. Seraphine went live again, eyes glassy, tone sharp. "She's weaponizing grief," she cried. I sat at my desk, stirring honey into my tea, and whispered, "You dig a hole long enough, and you'll fit it just fine." Lisette texted, "Let it play out. No statement." I agreed, but sent a single note to Marjorie. Silence has a sound when it's earned. By evening, the tide flipped. Hashtags changed sides. Corven truth trended above every lie. Commenters pulled receipts faster than lawyers could redact. Clips of Seraphine's arrogance looped beside courtroom transcripts. Their empire of image folded under the weight of its own echo. I called it unpaid PR. Truth didn't need marketing, it had memory. As night settled, the world around me grew softer. Neighbors left handwritten notes by my mailbox. "Proud of you, Ms. Corven." My church sisters called. Odette Walsh leading the chorus. "We've been praying steady. Now we're just proud." I didn't gloat. I logged receipts, filed reports, paid the gardener. "The hardest part of winning," I murmured, "is staying decent." Jonas emailed a screenshot. Declan's sponsorship deals terminated. Lizette confirmed the permanent injunction had been granted. Quiet and final. I ladled red beans into a bowl, humming a gospel tune low enough to stay private. "Not revenge," I said softly, "just records that breathe." Then the doorbell rang, twice. I wiped my hands, opened the door. A courier stood there, young, nervous, holding an envelope stamped bold, "Federal subpoena, Lang Estate." The porch light hit the seal just right, gleaming like a verdict. My breath caught. "Paper don't rest," I whispered, palm steady as I took it. Inside, one name waited at the top, Seraphine Corven Lang, and below it 3 words that made my heart still. Subject, perjury review. The morning began with stillness that didn't trust itself. I checked Judge Holt's docket updates. Clean, no surprises. Good. I texted Lisette, "Bank visit today. Watch the alerts." She answered, "Compliance ready." I set my pill case beside my coffee, laced my sneakers, and took my walk through the quiet Austin street. My voice, steady but low, coached itself. Steady hands. Evelyn. Don't buy a ticket to their show. The air had that early bite of winter. I liked how it woke the mind before the storm. I packed light. ID. Certified copies. My church coin in my pocket. My mama always said, "Make your plan simple enough to remember when the room gets loud." I called Camden Price on speaker. "If anything pings," I told him, "make sure everyone hears the truth." By noon, I was in the Beverly Hills branch, lobby side, a deliberate distance from the counters. Seraphine Corven Lang stormed in like she was still starring in her own show. Declan 2 steps behind. She asked for a cashier's check, crisp and confident. The teller typed, frowned, paused, then the whisper spread like spilled coffee. "It's frozen!" The screen flashed, "Trustee hold, refer to counsel." I stayed seated, eyes fixed on the glass doors, breathing even. Camden's call came through. "Corven, the hold you placed just tripped." I turned the volume up. "Thank you, son. Let the paper talk." Seraphine's tone sharpened. "This is harassment." The teller read the system note. "Please contact Dr. Lizette Morgan before any release." Declan stepped forward, voice rising, but the manager's reply cut him short. "Sir, we have court orders." I rose slowly, nodding once to Seraphine. Victory, I thought, is the quietest person in the room. Back in Austin, the glow of the laptop felt like a second courtroom. Jonas shared his screen, folders labeled Forge, Evidence, Logs. He pointed at timestamps, 311A, PT, Los Angeles office block tied to Declan's consultancy. He wasn't subtle, Jonas said. "We match DKM signatures from my late husband's account to the forged drafts labeled Reallocation Memo." I chuckled softly. "If it smells like somebody else's cologne, it ain't your suit." Jonas laughed, then prepared a forensic affidavit template, translating the tech jargon into plain English for the record. Together, We lined up screenshots, Seraphine's failed withdrawal, the system hold, the call timestamps, cause and effect printed side by side. I forwarded the full packet to Lisette. Subject line, S12, digital footprint bundle, ready for filing. That evening, in Lisette's LA conference room, microphones buzzed alive. I'm not angry, I told the court clerk. I'm accurate. Lisette filed Jonas's bundle, reading the hash IDs aloud, methodical as prayer. Declan challenged the chain of custody. Lisette cited notarized logs and screen-recorded pulls, airtight. I added only one line. These times match her live stream and his calendar invites. The judge nodded. Truth don't mind a clock. Lisette requested sanctions and a protective order against further tampering. I placed the $1 envelope on the table, its weight absurd in such a serious room. I didn't open it. Some symbols you let sit until they learn to speak for themselves. When it ended, I stepped outside under a sky turning violet. Jacaranda petals dusted the sidewalk like confetti from another kind of ceremony. Marjorie texted, "Chili for supper?" I replied. "Save me a bowl." I smiled, whispering, "Eat, rest, and remember. Paper's still working while you sleep." Then my phone rang again. Unknown number. "Ms. Corven," a man's voice said, firm but courteous. "This is Judge Holt's clerk. You'll want to see tomorrow's calendar." A pause. "It involves device imaging." The call clicked off, and I stood there under the jacarandas, the petals still falling. The morning after everything broke felt too quiet, like the air didn't trust itself yet. I woke before sunrise, made weak coffee, and checked the court portal. Judge Holt's order logs were there, device imaging completed. Timestamps matched every filing Lisette had placed. No commentary, no extra words, just precision. Lisette's email came next. Sanctions under review. Contempt hearing scheduled. Injunctive relief extended. I didn't underline a thing. The paper had already said enough. Jonas forwarded analytics. Declan's sponsorship suspended. Seraphine's follower count dropping by the minute. Her comment section had turned from love to lessons. "When a wind stops," I whispered, "you see which fences were real." I watered my fern and let that be my morning sermon. Camden confirmed the bank's fraud alert stood firm. Trustee, Evelyn Mae Corven only, I told him. "Keep your pencil sharp." Then I called Marjorie. "No victory laps, baby, just tasks." She said, "Decency first." 2 days later, in Dallas, I stood in a community center that smelled of mop water and fresh paper, folding chairs lined up in rows. A handmade banner read, "Harlan Corven Foundation." I wanted it humble. Lisette filed the articles. Mission, STEM access for small business owners and returning citizens. I signed, named Odette Walsh liaison, and handed the first micro-grant checks myself. One young man asked, "Why us?" I said, "Because somebody believed in me when paperwork didn't." A reporter asked for a quote. "This is stewardship, not revenge," I said, and that was all. Applause rose soft as rain. No cameras, no live streams, just real people in fluorescent light. I passed my pen to a grandmother in the front row to co-sign the pledge. Power, I've learned, isn't kept. It circulates. That evening, I drafted an email titled Family Accountability Meeting. Attendance expected. Lisette's office. 1 hour. No recordings. No lawyers. Just acknowledgments. I set 3 chairs, mine at the end, Seraphine's opposite, Declan's to the side. Between us sat an empty one labeled, "For what we owe each other." I looked at it and thought, if we can't sit with the truth, we can't stand with each other. Lisette placed a single manila folder on the table. Court record, restitution terms. Nothing poetic? My notes were brief. I won't fight my child in public. The record stands. We can fix some things today. Jonas texted. Want me there? I replied. Not this one. This is mother work. I brought my church coin for strength. Left the $1 envelope at home. That insult had already expired. Declan arrived on time. Seraphine texted running late, then not coming. The chair stayed empty. I didn't fill it. I read my sentences aloud, voice steady as wood. Lisette raised her hand before Declan could start performing. Just answers, she said. Did you attempt a transfer after the hold? I asked. Yes. Did you tell her to keep posting? Long pause. Yes, I slid the foundation flyer toward him. We've moved assets toward purpose. That's non-negotiable. He asked. What about settlement optics? I said. You worried about pictures. I worried about people. Quiet sat between us like judgment. I left a blank apology card and a copy of the codicil on the empty chair. Acknowledgement offered, not demanded. Declan nodded once, pocketed his phone without scrolling. That was progress in my book. When I got home, there was a bouquet on the porch. Thank you for making room for people like us. The note said, I cooked skillet cornbread. Marjorie brought greens, and for the first time in months, the house sounded like laughter. Justice doesn't tuck you in, I told her, but it lets you rest. Later. Odette sent photos from the workshop, folks holding up their first official receipts, faces shining like clean windows. Harlan would have loved that. I placed my church coin by the sink and whispered, We did all right. Old man. That night, Lisette sent me a public statement draft. 10 lines, 0 adjectives. I edited 3 words. Added, we will serve, and removed, unfortunately. It posted on Foundation letterhead, not personal accounts. I told the radio host, bring your receipts to our workshop, we'll help you file them. On air, I said. If you need fancy, we ain't it. If you need steady, come on by. Near midnight, headlights swept across my living room. A car idled outside. No knock, just the sound of an engine hesitating to leave. I texted Lisette. Visitor. She answered, Don't open. I'm calling patrol. Then, silence, except a soft slide under the door. A white envelope. I waited a full minute before picking it up. On the front, in uneven handwriting, for what I owe you. I turned the flap and saw the blank apology card I'd left on the empty chair, now filled with 2 words. I'm sorry. At dawn. I carried the apology card to Dr. Lisette Morgan's office. The words, I'm sorry, sat heavy on the page, ink trembling where her pen had paused. We logged it as an official item. Date, time, chain of custody, signature line blank for verification. Paper first? I told Lisette. Even for forgiveness. She nodded, calm as always. Apology doesn't erase liability, she said, but it can start leverage. I agreed. Leverage is just honesty with a deadline. We drafted a proffer letter inviting Seraphine Corven Lang to a private session. No Declan, no cameras. Attached were Jonas's forensic bundles and the court's imaging summary, clear as daylight. I told Lisette, if she wants redemption, it's going to have ink on it. Holt's clerk called an hour later. Judge will allow a chambers conference if settlement develops. The wheels began to hum again. By noon, Seraphine stood in Lisette's conference room, pale but upright. The recorder blinked red. Lisette reviewed the facts, false filings, social media misrepresentation, and one fraudulent draft. Perjury carries weight, she said evenly. I leaned forward, not unkind. I'm not here to ruin you, baby. I'm here to stop the ruin. The offer came plain. She'd issue a sworn correction, read a public apology at the Foundation's event, Commit 200 hours of admin service. Refrain from posting family or financial commentary for a year, and cooperate in naming Declan as the architect. Lisette added a hold on perjury referral, conditional on completion. Seraphine's voice cracked, but didn't break. "I'll do it," she whispered. I said, "Mercy don't mean amnesia." We all signed the memorandum, time-stamped, hashed, notarized. The silence after the pen lifted felt almost holy. 2 days later, I finalized the trust amendments. Dual signatures now required for any transfer, mine and bank counsel's. Camden Price set the new parameters, security alerts tied to Lisette's email. Nothing moves without a witness. I told him. He smiled. "Understood, Ms. Corven." I registered the foundation's image and naming rights, sealing the Corven Legacy brand under nonprofit control. "If it has your name," I said, "it needs your lock." Jonas sent proof of takedown notices, platforms erasing false claims and old drama clips, justice, tidy as paperwork. At the Dallas Community Center, folding chairs filled again, no fancy setup, just the same banner taped at the corners. I opened with, "We're turning money into work." Seraphine followed, holding a printed statement. She read clearly, acknowledging her false words, apologizing to our supporters, pledging service to the foundation. Her hands shook, but she didn't stop. When she finished, Odette stepped up and handed her a clipboard. "Welcome to intake," I told the crowd. "We don't cancel folks, we put them to work." Applause came, not loud, but honest. A reporter asked for drama. I said, "No pain stories today, only receipts for progress." It made the evening news without commentary, just the banner in frame and the phrase "community hours begin Monday." Later that night, Lisette and I signed the Mother's Mercy Clause. If Seraphine fulfilled every hour, issued a truthful year-end report, and stayed off social media about family, I'd release a formal letter of forgiveness and a limited work reference. Breach would trigger full perjury reinstatement and permanent exclusion. "The door's open," I said, "but it's got a spring." Declan's notice arrived separately, bar complaint pending. That, I told Lisette, is my peace offering to the law. When Seraphine shook my hand, I saw not guilt, but exhaustion. No hug, paper first, feelings later. By the 5th, life had its rhythm again. The barber shop got its POS system. The church kitchen printed its inventory sheets. Our reentry spreadsheet class hit full enrollment. Marjorie laughed over chili. "Look at God." I smiled, watching the steam rise. "Revenge is noisy," I said. "Justice hums." I placed my church coin on the windowsill beside the fern. Outside, the sunset spilled gold across my porch, like the world exhaling. Just as I locked up, a courier approached, clipboard in hand, breathless from the cold. He handed me an envelope. Inside were 2 documents, Declan Lang's resignation letter, neatly typed, and a federal subpoena with his name bold at the top. I stood under the porch light, the key in my other hand. The air felt quiet, resolved. The night didn't gloat. It simply answered. The porch light flickered once, then steadied. I placed Declan's subpoena beside the church coin, watching both glint in the fading dusk. Somewhere. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Los Angeles area code. I didn't answer. Not yet. Mercy had its clock, and maybe so did justice. The night waited, listening.